All right, we're going to do this PhotoPea mini project, and this one will be kind of a pop out effect. And you're going to find a picture that has some things that could be hanging out of the picture. So flowers are easy, but it literally could be just about anything. Um, we're going to create our own patterned background, and then we're going to bring this picture into it. And then we're going to be copying this picture several times to get kind of a cool pop out effect. So first off, I'm going to create a new document and we're just going to make 100 squares. So 100 pixels high, 100 pixels wide. And you can choose any color background that you want. I'm just going to set mine on white. Um, Depending on what your picture is, you might want to choose, a background color that's similar to one of your colors. Like I could go pink. I'll go pink this time. So to change your background color, you would use your paint bucket tool. And my buttons are in a weird spot here, I guess, because of the way my screen is. Your paint bucket hides under the gradient tool, just like in Photoshop. So I'm going to click on my paint bucket tool. I'm going to choose a color with my color picker, which is usually down at the bottom, and I'm not sure why it's not. And I'll pick a pink color. I guess that's pink, and click on here to fill in the background. Then we're going to take a paintbrush. So grab your brush tool, and I want you just to put some polka dots on here. You could do squiggles if like polka dots aren't your thing. But what we're going to create is a background that tiles. So don't touch the edges, whatever it is that you do. So choose what color you're going to paint with. I'm going to do white or pinkish white dots. And then you're just going to pop some dots. Or like I said, you could draw just little lines with a skinnier brush if you want. All right, so there's my pattern. Okay. And I'm going to go to Edit and Define New, and I'm going to call it, I go to Pattern, and it's going to add the pattern. In Photoshop, it would have us name the pattern, but it doesn't have it do this here. All right, I have a lot of tabs open here, so I'm going to have to be very careful. I'm going to now create a new document. So File and New, and we're going to do 1,000 by 1,000. Or if you don't want to do a square, you could do 1,000 by like 800. It kind of depends on whether your picture is square or rectangular. And if we look back at my picture, mine's kind of rectangular. So instead of doing a square, I'm going to do 1,000 by 800. But if yours is a square, you might do 1,000 by 1,000. Okay, so I'm going to hit create, and here's my document. And then I'm going to add that pattern by using a layer style. So I'm adding it to my background layer. I'm going to click here and go to pattern overlay. And it has a built-in pattern, which is kind of pretty, see? But I'm going to click on this, and it's going to load the patterns. And then if I've defined a pattern, it would be in here. And here it is. There's my polka dots that I made. There is a scale button here, so that would scale it up if I want my polka dots bigger, or scale it down if I want my polka dots littler. Okay, so there we go. That's mine. I'm going to hit OK. The background layer still says background. It's kind of hard to see the fact that there's a layer style on there. I'm going to unlock it. I clicked on the lock so that I can actually see that there is a layer style here. Okay, but that's what that's going to look like. So that's my background. Now I'm going to need to bring in my flowers. So I don't need my background anymore, or this tile rather. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out because it's going to be confusing. And now we're back here. Okay, so I've got my flowers. We're not going to drag them across because this is PhotoPea and it's not easy to do. So I'm going to place it. So File, Open and Place, and I'm going to go grab flowers again and pop it in here. It's going to be a smart object. So again, hold Shift and pull this down to be whatever you want it to be. I would try to make it so that it's got the same amount of space around all sides, except for one side, which would be the bigger side. And then once you've done that, you can take your crop tool and kind of crop it so that it matches. So there we go. Okay, so that's pretty close to, what we've got normal here. Okay, next up, we are going to have to duplicate this flower layer a couple of times. So I'm going to just click this layer and drag it down to this little piece of paper button, or you can right click and duplicate the layer. So this is going to be a black and white version of the flowers. So I'm going to turn the copy off for a second. So this flowers, I'm going to do a hue saturation layer, or you can do a black and white layer, either one, just desaturate it. So I'm going to do a black and white layer. I don't want my pretty pink background to not be pink anymore. So I need to right click and clip this to my flowers. Okay. So now if you're still seeing color, you might have this layer turned on top. Okay. So I'm going to kind of double click this and say, this is the flowers that are black and white. Okay. So we've got the black and white flowers going on the background here. Okay. Then if you wanted to, you could go a step further and add some sort of a filter here. There is a filter gallery, which will do some kind of funky things here. Now, I don't like the glowing edges, but like you can do some where it looks like it's a painting. So like here's one called Spatter. You know, you can do different ones here. So I'll just choose that one, but there's a bunch of different ones on here you can do. So that's going to turn that back one into, so it's black and white, but it also kind of looks like a painting. So that way it doesn't look exactly like the picture. Okay, now I've got my picture on top, and my picture is only going to be a part of this document that's going to be in color. So we have to choose what part we're going to keep of this. So I'm going to take my rectangular marquee tool, and I want to have something popping out of the picture. And in this case, it's going to be the top of this purple flower. Okay, so now you could do something right in the middle. Like I could do this and then say, okay, this little piece is going to pop out, and that would be fine. But I'm going to go over here a little bit, like this, and I'm going to make this piece pop out. Okay, so this kind of requires a few little extra steps here. So I've got my initial layer, and I don't want to get rid of this copied layer. I need to keep this layer, like don't mess with this layer, okay? So what we're doing is we're going to copy this layer and add a mask. So I'm going to duplicate this layer, and on the duplicated layer, I'm going to hit the layer mask button, okay? Now turn this off for a second so you can see what's happening, okay? So the duplicated layer has just that square part in color. Okay, now to make that a little easier to see, let's click on this copied layer. Okay, so this is the square copy. And let's go ahead and just add a nice little stroke to it. I'm going to go black here. And you can decide what size looks good for you. But anyway, so now we got that stroke there. So now it's kind of easier to see what's happening, right? We can see that we've got the black and white layer, and we've got this one here. And again, we didn't mess with this other layer. Okay, now I'm going to turn off that box. I'm going to turn back on this little guy. Now this time, I just want the top part of that flower out to a new layer. Okay, so I'm going to zoom up. You can use your navigator or your zoom tool. Use whatever selection tool that you want, and you're going to select, and it's okay if you get too far down because that part's going to be in the picture anyway, so it doesn't matter. So take whatever tool you want. I'm going to try magnetic lasso, although sometimes the magnetic lasso is the one that's a little bit fussy when you try to use it on a Chromebook. I'm on my actual laptop at the moment, but sometimes I tend to go with the quick selection when I'm on a Chromebook just because it's sometimes a little bit easier. All right, so you're going to work around here. I don't know if I need this piece out here. I don't think so. And then just kind of come down. And I don't need the whole thing, so it doesn't have to be perfect down at the bottom. Okay. All right. Once you have the marching ants, we're going to do what we just did a minute ago, right? So I'm on the copy layer. This copy layer is the one we're not messing with, right? And I'm going to duplicate it again. So now I have copy 3. Okay, copy 3 is going to go on top. And then copy 3, while we have this flower selected, I'm going to add the layer mask. All right, now we can't tell what's happening. Let me turn off this, and what we see now is that's that little flower piece. And now if I turn back on this layer, it looks like the flower is popping out. And that's our pop out effect. Isn't that cool? So that looks pretty neat, right? So this little part, this flowers copy 3, this is a little chunk of flower sticking out the top. This flowers copy 2 is the color part of this picture. And then this one here we just kept hold of because we needed to keep keep that one just in case we mess anything up. Then we've got our original flower layer, which we've added a filter on and made it black and white. It's a smart filter because it was a smart object, so the filter is toggleable. You can turn it off or on, or you can go back in and change that filter to a different thing. So if you wanted to, pick a different one, you could go in here and change it. It's all going to be editable in that filter gallery since it's a smart object. And then if you wanted to, around your black and white picture, if you wanted to add a stroke there, you could do that. And I think I'm going to add one. Maybe I'll just make it kind of to match my outside color. Oops, it's going on the outside. I'm actually going to make it go on the inside a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to add a little drop shadow. There we go. It's kind of got like a picture going on here. It's a little too far out. All right, I'm going to hit OK. And there we go. There is my beautiful piece of art. So we've got a pattern that I created. We've got sort of a painted looking background going on. And then it's like we have a box where the picture is actually in focus and it's an actual real picture. And then we have a little chunk of that item in the box that goes outside the box. This could be, if I have a basketball player and they had their hand up, like they were getting ready to dunk a ball, and there was a ball on their hand, you could have like the ball on the hand sticking out of the top of the picture, or whatever. So lots of different variations that you could do of this one. But yeah, this is how to create a pop out effect and add filters and create your own pattern using PhotoPea.